Hello, my name is Persephone Abbott, and the title of this video is Do Eldon and Terry Mast Know Where My Father's Missing Materials Are? My mother, who died in 2021, stipulated that Eldon and Terry Mast would buy her house at 1046 Grant Street in Longmont, Colorado, for fair market rate after her death. My mother died in July of 2021. Terry and Eldon Mast paid $243,000 for the house on 1046 Grant Street in Longmont, Colorado in 2021. The house sold in 2022 for $450,000. My mother equally left the remaining contents of the house to Eldon and Terry Mast. Now, I'm not concerned with the house, but I am very concerned with my father's missing materials. My father was a writer and artist. In the spring of 2021, before my mother's death, my mother sent my father's archival material to the University of Western Washington in Bellingham, Washington, as it was my father's wish. My father died previously in 2019. Before he died, he was very busy with preparing his archival materials, and his sister, my aunt, helped supply items that my father especially wanted to be in the archive. Unfortunately, not all the material reached the University of Western Washington in Bellingham, Washington. The Abbott family is committed to finding the missing materials that should be housed at the university in the archives in Bellingham. I have retained the intellectual property rights to my father's works for the Abbott family, and they will remain in the Abbott family, and I am the sole holder of these rights. We as family members are proud of Keith Abbott's career, and we want to honor his legacy. He didn't achieve fame or great acclaim, but he was the first writer in a family of farmers. He persevered with his dream to write. It is painful that so much of the archival material has gone missing. Keith is greatly missed by his family. We want to complete the documentation of his life as much as possible. At the moment, I am preparing one of my father's novels for publication. So much of the book reminds me of my father's stories, and I recognize the characters in the book as actual friends of my father's sometimes were used for characters, or the several friends were used, traits of friends were used to be combined for an invented character. My father loved writing, and I remember him writing very early in the morning every day of his life. He'd get up around 6 o'clock to get in his quota of pages. His novel Rhino Ritz is a great example of the clarity that he had as a person and observer. Right now, I've chosen to edit a novel that was published in 1985, and I don't believe it was ever seriously edited. The novel is called Mordecai of Monterey, and to give you an example of why it wasn't particularly well edited at the time of publication is the following passage. Blue Whale's first job was in Carmel Valley. The address turned out to be a ranch house down a long eucalyptus-lined lane. The house was surrounded by a high privet hedge. Buck parked the gray ghost out of sight behind a row of eucalyptus trees. The gray ghost is a truck. The house was low and elegant, with an ornate bonsai garden around it. A black Mercedes and a pale silver Porsche coupe stood in the driveway. Buck and Mordecai surveyed the landscape. Well, ours is not the reason why, Mordecai said, getting out of the truck. The problem with this passage is that my father has a house that's behind a high hedge and two people in a truck that are parked behind a row of eucalyptus trees. And then they're talking about what is surrounding the house. Well, the problem is they can't really see what's surrounding the house. And generally, these kind of passages that are a bit muddled happen every once in a while. And so I'm doing my best to retain the authentic flavor of my father's writings and yet clean it up a bit so that it reads a little easier. Then there are passages like the following, in which the main character is having a complicated dialogue with himself about the nature of fear, listing the things he had been raised to fear as a child. Here I read, he had been afraid of food, he had been afraid of cars and streets and electric fences around pastures. Now I consulted with my father's sister, and she said, yes, my father had a great fear of electric fences at a time because his brothers played pranks on him and his sister. I believe I am the only one who can do this type of editing work for my father's legacy. And we hope, the Abbott family hopes, that whoever has the missing materials will send them to the University of Western Washington at Bellingham. And I'm happy to reimburse postage. I will list an email address below in the details. And again, the family is very proud of what my father achieved. And we are very pained that these materials have gone missing. And we very much would like the materials to be complete in the archives as my father intended. Thank you.